Principal Victoria Hargrove spoke those words casually, like she was discussing the weather, not destroying a 7-year-old boy's future. She sat behind her massive oak desk in her pristine office at Riverside Academy, the most prestigious elementary school in the district, adjusting her reading glasses with manicured fingers that had never known a day of real struggle. Lily sat across from her, hands folded carefully in her lap, her phone face down on the armrest of the uncomfortable visitor's chair. She was 32 years old and had never imagined that advocating for her son would require this level of composure. Her finger rested subtly on the phone's side button, the recording app already running for the past 12 minutes. "I'm sorry, what did you just say?" Lily asked quietly, though she'd heard every syllable perfectly. Victoria sighed with the kind of theatrical patience that made it clear she considered this conversation beneath her. "Mrs. Chen, I've been an educator for 23 years. I know what's best for this school's academic environment. Your son's condition creates disruptions that affect the learning experience of our other students. Ethan's condition, not his name. Not his diagnosis. His condition, spoken like a disease." 3 months earlier, Lily had noticed the subtle shifts. The way Ethan's teacher, Mrs. Patterson, would avoid eye contact during pickup. The mysterious incidents that were never quite explained in detail. The phone calls about Ethan's behavior that always came when Lily was at work, forcing her to step away from her desk as a financial analyst at Morrison & Associates, whispering into the phone while her colleagues pretended not to listen. But she had trusted the school. She had believed that Riverside Academy, with its gleaming website full of diversity statements and inclusion promises, meant what it said. "Ethan hasn't disrupted anyone," Lily said, keeping her voice level. "He's been doing his work." His aide, Mrs. Jenkins, said he's been making real progress with his social skills. "Mrs. Jenkins is no longer with us," Victoria said abruptly. "We terminated her position last week. Budget cuts." The lie was so smooth it almost sounded believable. But Lily had already spoken to Mrs. Jenkins, who'd called her in tears 3 days ago. They hadn't cut her position. They'd eliminated it specifically, the only aide position in the entire school, the one that made it possible for Ethan to attend mainstream classes. "So you fired his aide, and now you're saying he can't function without support," Lily said slowly. Victoria's smile was thin and professional. "I'm saying that Riverside Academy may not be the right fit for Ethan's needs. There are other schools, specialized schools, where he would be more comfortable with children like himself." Children like himself. The words hung in the air like poison. Lily thought about Ethan that morning, carefully arranging his toy cars in precise color order before school, explaining to her in his serious 7-year-old voice that red cars were fastest, so they had to go first. She thought about how he'd learned to say good morning to the bus driver every day, how proud he'd been when he finally mastered tying his shoes, how he'd cried with joy when he got his first gold star for finishing his math worksheet. "The law requires you to provide accommodations," Lily said. "The law requires reasonable accommodations," Victoria corrected. "And frankly, Mrs. Chen, the resources required to manage Ethan's outbursts are not reasonable given our student-to-teacher ratio." "What outbursts? Be specific." Victoria waved her hand dismissively. "He doesn't respond appropriately to instructions. He makes noises during quiet time. He requires constant redirection. He's 7 years old. Neurotypical 7-year-olds also require redirection. Neurotypical children don't crawl under desks when they're overwhelmed. That's a coping mechanism his therapist taught him," Lily said, her voice finally showing an edge. "It's in his IEP. You approved it." "His IEP was written under the assumption that adequate support would be provided," Victoria said. "Without Mrs. Jenkins, we simply cannot meet his needs. I'm recommending a transfer to Oakwood Learning Center." Oakwood. Lily knew exactly what that place was. A warehouse for kids the regular schools didn't want, underfunded and understaffed, where children with disabilities were essentially hidden away. "You're expelling him," Lily said flatly. "I'm recommending a more appropriate placement," Victoria corrected, but her eyes were cold. "The paperwork will be processed by Friday. We'll provide his records and a transition plan." Lily looked at the principal for a long moment. This woman with her expensive suit and her walls covered with awards and photos of herself shaking hands with local politicians. This woman who'd smiled so warmly during Ethan's enrollment interview, who'd praised Lily for being such a dedicated single mother, who'd promised that Riverside Academy believed every child deserved excellence. "Can I ask you something honestly?" Lily said. Victoria made a go-ahead gesture. "Is this because he's autistic, or is this because you're afraid his test scores will hurt your school's rankings?" Something flickered in Victoria's expression, there and gone in an instant. "Mrs. Chun, I find that question offensive. This decision is based solely on what's best for all students. All students except mine. Your son requires resources we don't have. You had resources until you eliminated his aide position." "Mrs. Chun," Victoria said, her voice sharpening. "I've been patient with you, but I need you to understand something." She leaned forward, abandoning the pretense of compassion. "Ethan doesn't belong here. This school is for children who can keep up, who can follow instructions, who can function normally in a classroom setting. We have standards to maintain." There it was. The truth beneath the bureaucratic language. "So children with disabilities don't meet your standards," Lily said. "I didn't say that. You just did." Victoria's jaw tightened. "This conversation is over. The decision has been made. You'll receive the official documentation tomorrow." Lily stood up slowly, picking up her phone with deliberate care. Her hand was steady, her expression calm. To Victoria, she probably looked defeated, another parent who'd realized she couldn't fight the system. But inside, something had shifted. A door had closed on the woman who'd trusted institutions to do the right thing. And another door had opened, one that led somewhere Victoria Hargrove couldn't possibly imagine. "Thank you for your time, Principal Hargrove," Lily said. As she walked out of that office, past the trophy cases and the motivational posters about excellence and inclusion, she thought about Ethan waiting at home with her mother. She thought about explaining to him that he couldn't go back to his school, to his friends, to the routine that made him feel safe. And she thought about the 13 minutes and 47 seconds of audio now saved on her phone. If you're watching this and you've ever fought for your child against a system that didn't want them, subscribe to this channel. Because what happened next proved that sometimes the people who underestimate you make the biggest mistake of their lives. That evening, Lily sat at her kitchen table with her laptop open and a cold cup of coffee she'd forgotten to drink. Her mother, Susan, was in the living room reading to Ethan, their voices a soft murmur through the wall. Ethan's bedtime routine was sacred, precisely timed, the same books in the same order every night. Right now, he was safe in that routine, unaware that his world was about to be ripped apart. Lily replayed the recording for the third time, her jaw tightening with each listen. Victoria's voice came through crystal clear. "Defective children disrupt the normal ones." Her phone buzzed. A text from Rachel Kim, another parent from Ethan's class, whose daughter Sophie was Ethan's only real friend at school. "Rachel, just heard from Mrs. Patterson. Is it true they're kicking Ethan out?" Lily's fingers hovered over the keyboard. The school must have started spreading their version of events already, controlling the narrative before she could even process what had happened. "Lily, they're calling it a recommended transfer. Meeting was today." "Rachel, I'm so sorry. Sophie's going to be devastated. She talks about Ethan constantly. Lily, can we talk tomorrow?" "I need to figure some things out, Rachel. Of course, whatever you need." Lily set the phone down and opened a new browser window. She'd spent the last 2 hours researching special education law, her analyst brain clicking into the mode that made her valuable at work, finding patterns, identifying weaknesses, building cases with data. The Americans with Disabilities Act was explicit. Schools receiving federal funding couldn't discriminate based on disability. They were required to provide free and appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. Eliminating the aide position and then claiming Ethan couldn't function without support was textbook discrimination. But knowing the law and enforcing it were different things. She'd already called 3 education lawyers that afternoon. 2 hadn't answered. The third had quoted her a $15,000 retainer, Money she absolutely didn't have as a single mother, paying for Ethan's therapy, his specialized diet, his sensory equipment, everything insurance didn't cover. Her mother appeared in the doorway, reading glasses perched on her nose. He's asleep. Took an extra story tonight, though. I think he senses something's wrong. Kids always know, Lily said quietly. Susan sat down across from her. The same kitchen table where she'd helped Lily with homework 25 years ago. Where they'd celebrated Ethan's adoption paperwork being finalized. Where Lily had cried after her divorce. What are you going to do? Susan asked. I don't know yet. But I recorded the entire meeting. Her mother's eyebrows rose. Everything? Every word. Victoria didn't ask if I was recording. She just assumed I'd sit there and take it. That woman always did think she was untouchable, Susan said bitterly. She'd lived in this district for 40 years, watched Victoria Hargrove climb from teacher to assistant principal to her current position, leaving a trail of ruined careers and crushed spirits behind her. Did she actually say those things about Ethan being defective? Almost verbatim. Along with some other gems about him not belonging at a school with standards. Susan's expression hardened. That recording is evidence. Evidence I can't afford to use in court. Do you know how much education lawyers cost? So what, you just let her win? You let her throw Ethan away like he's damaged goods? I didn't say that. Lily's voice was steel. I said I can't afford a lawyer. I didn't say I was giving up. She pulled up another tab on her laptop. This one showing the Riverside Academy website. Gleaming photos of diverse students, glowing testimonials from parents, Victoria's bio prominently featuring her commitment to inclusive excellence and her position on the State Board of Education. The State Board. That detail had stuck in Lily's mind since the meeting. Mom, didn't you say Victoria's been trying to get on the governor's education task force? She's been campaigning for it for months, Susan confirmed. I heard her speak at the library fundraiser last spring, all about how she's revolutionizing public education, making schools more accountable. She wants that appointment badly. It's the stepping stone to her real goal, which is state superintendent of schools. Maybe even a run for the state legislature eventually. That woman's been building her political career on the backs of teachers and students for years. Lily stared at Victoria's smiling photo on the screen. A woman with political ambitions, a carefully crafted public image, and a recording of her calling disabled children defective. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was an email from the school district's legal department, sent at 7:47 p.m. The subject line read, Student transfer notification, Ethan Chen. She opened it, her stomach sinking as she read. The language was carefully neutral, bureaucratic, designed to sound reasonable. Ethan's unique needs required specialized support that Riverside Academy could no longer provide. His transfer to Oakwood Learning Center would take effect Monday, giving Lily exactly 4 days. Attached was a form requiring her signature acknowledging receipt of the transfer notice. At the bottom, in bold, failure to enroll. Ethan in an appropriate educational setting within 10 days may result in truancy charges. They were threatening her with legal action if she didn't comply. Lily's hands were shaking now, but not with fear. With rage so pure it felt like electricity in her veins. They're rushing it, she said. They want him out before I can organize any kind of response. Can they do that? Technically, they're supposed to hold an IEP meeting first. Get my consent. Follow due process. But they're betting I won't know my rights or won't have the resources to fight back. Susan leaned forward. But you do know your rights. And I have evidence of discrimination. I just need to figure out how to use it. Over the next 2 days, Lily moved like a woman possessed. She took personal days from work, calling in sick for the first time in 3 years. She filed a formal complaint with the school district's special education office, citing specific violations of Ethan's IEP and the IDEA Act. She requested copies of all documentation related to the decision to eliminate Mrs. Jenkins's position. She also started making calls to the local disability rights organization, who told her they were backlogged with cases but would try to help eventually. To the State Department of Education, who transferred her 5 times before disconnecting. To 3 more lawyers, all of whom gave her the same answer. Without money up front, they couldn't take the case. On Wednesday morning, she received an email from someone unexpected, Mrs. Jenkins, Ethan's former aide. Subject: You need to know what really happened, Mrs. Chun. I know I'm not supposed to contact you, but I can't stay silent. They didn't eliminate my position because of budget cuts. Principal Hargrove told me directly that Ethan was too much work and that keeping him enrolled was bad optics with the new standardized testing requirements coming next year. She wanted him gone before test season. I refused to document false behavioral incidents to justify his removal. That's why she fired me. I have emails that prove all of this, but I signed an NDA when they terminated me. If I share them, I lose my severance and my teaching license. I'm so sorry I can't help more directly. But I wanted you to know the truth. Your son is wonderful, and what they're doing to him is evil. Patricia Jenkins Lily read the email 3 times. Patricia had evidence. Real evidence that this wasn't about Ethan's needs at all. It was about test scores and optics and Victoria's political career. But Patricia couldn't use that evidence without destroying her own life. Which meant Lily would have to find another way. Thursday afternoon, she was sitting in her car outside Riverside Academy watching Pickup Time when she noticed something. A news van from Channel 7 was parked across the street, filming what looked like a puff piece about the school's award-winning science program. The reporter, a young black woman Lily vaguely recognized from the evening news, was interviewing Victoria on the front steps. Victoria was in her element, smiling warmly, gesturing toward the building behind her, probably spouting the same rehearsed lines about excellence and opportunity that filled the school's website. Lily watched them for a long moment, an idea forming. She pulled out her phone and Googled the reporter's name from the news van's placard. Jasmine Porter, Channel 7 Investigative Team. Investigative team, not just fluff pieces. Lily opened a new email. Subject: Story tip. Discrimination at award-winning school. Miss Porter. I have audio evidence of Principal Victoria Hargrove calling disabled children defective and admitting to eliminating support positions to force special needs students out of Riverside Academy. I'm a parent whose 7-year-old autistic son is being illegally expelled to protect test scores. If you're interested in a real story about what happens behind the awards and photo ops, I have documentation. Lily Chen. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. That night, Ethan woke up crying at 2 a.m., something he hadn't done in months. Lily found him sitting up in bed, tears streaming down his face. Mama, why can't I go to school tomorrow? Her heart broke. She tried to shield him, but children always knew. You are going to school, baby. I promise. Sophie said kids are saying I'm bad. That I have to leave. Lily climbed into his narrow bed, pulling him close. You are not bad. You are perfect exactly as you are. And Mama is going to fix this. How? She thought about the recording on her phone. The email from Mrs. Jenkins. The message sent to Jasmine Porter. Sometimes people think they can hurt others because they have power, she said carefully. But they forget that the truth is more powerful than anything. And Mama has the truth. What's truth? It's what really happened, not what someone wants people to believe happened. Ethan processed this with his usual seriousness. Is Principal Hargrove lying? Yes, baby. She is. That's bad. Teachers say lying is bad. It is bad. And sometimes when people do bad things, other people have to make sure everyone knows. So it doesn't happen again. Are you going to tell on Principal Hargrove? Lily smiled in the darkness. Yes, Ethan. I'm going to tell on Principal Hargrove. Friday morning, Lily's phone rang. Unknown number. Mrs. Chun? This is Jasmine Porter from Channel 7. I got your email. Can we talk? They met at a coffee shop 15 miles from Riverside, far enough that no one from the school district would accidentally see them. Jasmine Porter arrived exactly on time, a leather messenger bag over her shoulder and a look in her eyes that said she'd heard too many empty promises from people claiming to have the real story. Lily had brought everything. The recording, printed transcripts, emails, Ethan's IEP documentation showing the accommodations that had been approved and then ignored. Even the termination notice for Mrs. Jenkins's position that she'd obtained through a public records request. Jasmine listened to the recording twice, her expression shifting from professional skepticism to genuine shock. "This is Victoria Hargrove?" she asked when it finished. "The Victoria Hargrove who just won the State Educator of Excellence Award?" "The same one who's campaigning for the governor's education task force," Lily confirmed. Jasmine sat back, fingers drumming on the table. "Mrs. Chun, I need to be honest with you. This is explosive, but it's also risky. Victoria Hargrove has powerful friends. The superintendent, the school board president, half the city council. If we run this story, there will be pushback. I'm a single mother with a 7-year-old autistic son they're trying to throw away," Lily said quietly. "They've already done their worst to me. What more can they take? Your job. Your reputation. They could sue you for defamation, drag you through court, even if they don't have a case, just to bleed you dry. Then I'll bleed dry fighting for my son, instead of watching him get destroyed by a system that sees him as defective." Something shifted in Jasmine's expression. She leaned forward. "I need to tell you something. This isn't just professional interest for me. My younger brother is autistic. He's 24 now, works at a grocery store, lives in a group home. But when he was Ethan's age, a principal told my mother that he'd never amount to anything, that he should be institutionalized. What did your mother do? She fought. For years. IP meetings, due process hearings, lawyer fees that nearly bankrupted us. She won, eventually. My brother got the education he deserved, but it cost her everything. Her marriage, her health, almost her sanity." Jasmine pulled out her laptop. "I can't promise this story will air immediately. My news director will need to verify everything, get legal clearance, probably try to get a comment from Hargrove. But if you're willing to go on camera, if you're willing to let me use that recording, I will make sure people hear what she said." "When?" "Give me a week. Maybe less if I can move fast. Ethan's transfer takes effect Monday. In 4 days. He's supposed to start at Oakwood. Then we need to move faster." Jasmine's fingers were already flying across her keyboard. "I'll pitch this to my news director tonight. In the meantime, I need you to document everything. Every email, every phone call, every interaction with the school. And Mrs. Chun? Be careful. Once Victoria finds out you're talking to media, things are going to escalate." They did, faster than Lily expected. Saturday morning, she received a certified letter from the school district's legal department. The language was dense and threatening, full of phrases like unauthorized recording and potential privacy violations and legal action. They were claiming that recording, the meeting without Victoria's consent, was illegal under state wiretapping laws. Lily called Jasmine immediately. "They're bluffing," Jasmine said after reading the letter Lily had photographed and texted. "California is a 2-party consent state, but there are exceptions for documenting potential illegal activity. Disability discrimination is illegal. You were gathering evidence of a crime. Will that hold up in court? Probably. But more importantly, it tells me they're scared. Someone tipped them off that you're not just going away quietly. Who would have told them? Could be anyone. School secretary, another parent, someone who saw us at the coffee shop. In a district this small, word travels. That afternoon, Lily's phone rang. The school superintendent, Dr. Gerald Morrison, a man she'd never spoken to directly. "Mrs. Chun, I understand there's been some confusion regarding your son's educational placement." His voice was smooth, practiced. "I'd like to invite you to a meeting Monday morning to discuss alternatives." "Alternatives to what?" "To the current recommendation. Perhaps we can find a solution that works for everyone." Lily felt a chill. They were trying to negotiate her silence. What kind of solution? "Well, I understand finances might be a concern for a single parent. Perhaps the district could provide some additional support, tutoring services, maybe even a small scholarship fund for private therapies. We want to help Ethan succeed. By bribing me to shut up about discrimination?" The superintendent's pause was too long. "Mrs. Chun, I think you may have misunderstood Principal Hargrove's concerns. She's an excellent educator who sometimes struggles with communication. Perhaps things were said in the heat of a difficult conversation that didn't come across as intended. She called my son defective. That came across exactly as intended. I'm told there may be a recording of your meeting. Mrs. Chen, I need to caution you that sharing any such recording publicly could expose you to serious legal liability. Is that a threat? It's friendly advice. Come to the meeting Monday. Let's resolve this privately, like professionals. There's no need for lawyers or media involvement that could be embarrassing for everyone. Embarrassing for Victoria Hargrove. You mean, for your son, Mrs. Chen. Do you really want Ethan's name attached to a public controversy? Children can be cruel. Other parents talk. These things follow families. And there it was. The real threat. Not legal action, but social destruction. They'd make Ethan's life miserable. Poison the community against them. Ensure that even if Lily won legally, she'd lose everything else. I'll think about your offer, Lily said and hung up. She immediately called Jasmine. They're trying to buy me off. Good. That means the story's working. Keep a record of every offer they make. It's all more evidence of consciousness of guilt. Sunday morning, something unexpected happened. Rachel Kim knocked on Lily's door at 8 a.m., holding a cardboard box. I talked to other parents, Rachel said, slightly breathless. The ones who actually know Ethan, who've seen how sweet he is with their kids. We took a collection. Inside the box was $3,400 in cash and checks. Rachel, I can't. Yes, you can. Sophie cried for 2 hours when I told her Ethan couldn't come back to school. She made me promise we'd help. This is from 12 families. It's not lawyer money, but maybe it helps. Lily felt tears burn behind her eyes. Why would you all do this? Because Victoria Hargrove has been a nightmare for years, but she's careful. She goes after families who can't fight back, kids who don't have advocates. But you're fighting Lily. And if you take her down, maybe she can't hurt anyone else's kid. After Rachel left, Lily counted the money carefully. Combined with her savings, she had almost $8,000. Not enough for a trial lawyer, but maybe enough to retain someone for basic legal advice, to file official complaints, to make noise. She called the Disability Rights Organization again. This time, they answered. We've actually been hearing about the situation at Riverside, the intake coordinator said. If you're willing to be a test case, we might be able to take this on contingency. We've wanted to go after that district for years. Why haven't you? No one's ever had proof before. Parents are too scared, or they settle quietly, or they just move away. But if you have that recording, if you're willing to go public, we can build a pattern of practice case. How long would that take? Months. Maybe a year. Ethan gets expelled Monday. We can file for an emergency injunction. It's not guaranteed, but if we can show immediate irreparable harm, a judge might order the school to maintain his placement while the case proceeds. For the first time in days, Lily felt something like hope. Monday morning arrived with the weight of an execution date. Lily dressed in her best professional suit, the navy one she wore for important presentations at work. She did her makeup carefully, her mother's words echoing in her head. Never let them see you broken. Ethan was confused about why he wasn't going to school, why Grammy was staying with him instead of Mama taking him to the bus stop. Mama has an important meeting, Lily explained, kneeling to his level. About your school. Am I in trouble? No, baby. You did nothing wrong. Not one single thing. This is about grown-ups who made bad choices. She kissed his forehead and left before he could see her cry. The meeting with Superintendent Morrison was scheduled for 9 a.m. in the district office's conference room. Lily arrived at 8:45, her phone in her pocket with the recording app already running. But she wasn't alone. Jasmine Porter was waiting in the parking lot with a cameraman. You're not going in there by yourself, Jasmine said. First Amendment protects me. They can't keep press out of a public meeting about a public concern. They'll never let you in. Then we'll film them keeping me out. Either way, it's a story. At exactly 9 a.m., Lily walked through the district office doors with Jasmine Porter and a camera crew behind her. The receptionist's eyes went wide. She grabbed her phone, whispering frantically. Dr. Morrison appeared within seconds. his friendly telephone manner completely gone. Mrs. Chen, this meeting was meant to be private. Public employee. Public building, public concern, Jasmine said pleasantly. We have every right to be here. This is a confidential matter regarding a minor child. This is a matter of potential disability discrimination by a state-funded institution, Jasmine countered. Do we go inside? Or do we have this conversation right here in the lobby? Morrison's face flushed. He looked at Lily with something close to hatred. You're making a serious mistake. No, Lily said quietly. Principal Hargrove made a serious mistake. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it. She pulled out her phone, holding it up so the camera could see. I have 13 minutes and 47 seconds of Victoria Hargrove explaining why disabled children don't belong in her school. Would you like to hear it? That recording was obtained illegally. California Penal Code 633 allows recording when documenting potential felony activity. Disability discrimination is a felony. Would you like me to play it here, or would you prefer we go somewhere more private? Morrison's jaw worked silently. Behind him, through the conference room's glass door, Lily could see Victoria Hargrove sitting at the head of the table, her face carefully composed, but her hands gripping her leather portfolio with white knuckles. She hadn't expected Lily to bring reinforcements. She'd expected a desperate mother who'd take the settlement money and disappear quietly into whatever school would accept her defective child. Instead, she was staring at a woman who'd brought cameras and evidence, and the kind of cold fury that doesn't stop until justice is served. Mrs. Chen, if you play that recording in front of cameras, you'll be served with a lawsuit before you leave this building. Morrison's voice had lost all pretense of friendliness. Then serve me, Lily said. Right here, on camera, in front of witnesses. Let's see how that looks on the evening news. Victoria finally emerged from the conference room, her heels clicking sharply on the tile floor. She'd composed her face into an expression of concerned authority, but Lily could see the panic underneath. Lily, let's talk about this reasonably, Victoria said, her voice dripping with false warmth. You're upset, understandably so. But ambushing us with media isn't productive for Ethan. Don't. Lily's voice cut through the lobby like a blade. Don't you dare use my son's name like you care about him. You called him defective. I never said that. Lily held up her phone. Should I play it right now? Let everyone hear exactly what you said? Victoria's composure cracked just for a second. Her eyes darted to the camera, to Morrison, back to Lily. She was calculating, trying to find an angle, a way to spin this. That recording was taken without my consent, Victoria said, pivoting to indignation. It's inadmissible and potentially criminal. California allows single-party consent recording when documenting potential illegal activity. Jasmine interjected smoothly. Disability discrimination under the ADA is illegal. Mrs. Chen was gathering evidence of a federal crime. There was no crime committed, Morrison snapped. This is a simple disagreement about educational placement. Then you won't mind if we schedule a formal hearing with the State Department of Education? Lily said, complete with this recording as evidence? Along with Mrs. Jenkins's testimony about being fired for refusing to falsify documentation. Victoria's face went white. Patricia Jenkins signed an NDA, which becomes void if she's subpoenaed to testify about illegal activity. Jasmine finished. Did you really think she wouldn't talk eventually? The receptionist's phone was ringing constantly now. Other district administrators were appearing in doorways, drawn by the commotion. One of them, a younger woman Lily recognized as the assistant superintendent, was recording everything on her own phone. Morrison made a last desperate attempt at control. Everyone, please. This is not appropriate. Mrs. Chen, if you have legitimate concerns, there are proper channels. I filed a formal complaint 5 days ago, Lily said. I received a letter threatening me with legal action in response. The proper channels told me to be quiet and accept my son's expulsion. It's not an expulsion. Then what is it? Lily's voice rose for the first time, months of suppressed rage finally breaking through. You eliminated his aid. You refused his accommodations. You're forcing him into a segregated facility. What exactly would you call it? A necessary placement decision based on available resources. Lies. The shout came from an unexpected source. Rachel Kim had entered the building with 5 other parents, all of them holding printed copies of something. These are public records requests showing exactly how much money this district spent on new football equipment last year. $200,000. But you couldn't afford one aide's salary? Morrison's face flushed red. Those funds came from different budget lines. And here's the attendance records showing 11 other students with disabilities, who've been transferred out of Riverside Academy in the past 3 years. Another parent interrupted, a tall black man Lily recognized as Marcus Thompson, whose daughter had epilepsy. All right, before testing season, want to explain that pattern? Victoria's carefully maintained composure was crumbling. Those situations were completely different. My daughter was forced out because her seizure medication made her drowsy, Marcus said. You told us she was disrupting the learning environment. She was sleeping quietly at her desk. My son has a DHD, a white mother added, her voice shaking with anger. You pushed him out by making his life so miserable he begged us to let him leave. He was 8 years old. More parents were arriving now, word having spread through the school community like wildfire. The lobby was filling with people who'd been silenced, who'd been told to accept their children's rejection quietly, who'd been too afraid or too exhausted to fight back. Until now. I think we have enough for the story, Jasmine said quietly to her cameraman. But let's see if Principal Hargrove wants to comment on the record. She turned to Victoria, microphone extended. Principal Hargrove, do you stand by your statement that children with disabilities are defective and disrupt normal students? I never said that, Victoria hissed. Lily pressed play. Victoria's voice filled the lobby, clear and undeniable. Defective children disrupt the normal ones. The silence that followed was absolute. Then Lily played the next part. Your son doesn't belong here. This school is for children who can keep up, who can follow instructions, who can function normally in a classroom setting. Every phone in that lobby was recording now. Parents, staff members, even Morrison's own assistant. The video would be uploaded before Victoria made it back to her office. You're done, Marcus said quietly. You're finished. Victoria's face had gone from white to splotchy red. You don't understand the context. The context is that you're a bigot, Rachel said flatly. And you've been using your position to hurt vulnerable children for years. Morrison tried one last time to regain control. Everyone needs to leave. This is private property. This is a public building funded by taxpayer dollars, Jasmine corrected. And this is now a documented story of systematic discrimination against disabled students. Channel 7 will be running it tonight at 6 and 11. We'll sue for defamation. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation, Jasmine said. And we have truth on tape. Victoria's phone was ringing. She looked at the screen and her face somehow went even paler. It's the State Board of Education. You might want to take that, Lily said softly. I imagine they have questions about whether someone who calls disabled children defective should be representing them. Victoria's hands were shaking as she answered. The conversation lasted less than 30 seconds. When she hung up, she looked like she might actually be sick. They've suspended my appointment to the task force pending investigation, she said, her voice hollow. They want me to resign from the state board immediately. Good, Lily said. Now approve Ethan's return to Riverside Academy with full accommodations, or I file a federal civil rights complaint this afternoon. You can't force me. Actually, she can, a new voice said. A woman in a sharp suit had entered the building, briefcase in hand. Jennifer Walsh, disability rights attorney. I'm here to file an emergency injunction on behalf of Ethan Chun. Judge Martinez granted us a hearing for 2 o'clock today. You're welcome to explain to a federal judge why you eliminated support services, and then expelled the student who needed them. Morrison and Victoria exchanged looks. They were cornered and they knew it. If we reinstate Ethan, Morrison said slowly, will you agree to drop any further legal action? No, Lily said. Ethan gets reinstated because that's his legal right, but I'm not dropping anything. Every parent in this room deserves to know their children won't be thrown away the moment they become inconvenient. Then, we'll fight you in court. With what money? Jennifer Walsh said. Federal civil rights cases award attorneys' fees to prevailing parties. This district will be paying our legal bills. And given the evidence, I'd say we're going to prevail. The lawyer placed a document on the receptionist's desk. That's the emergency injunction petition. You have until 2 p.m. to respond. I suggest you spend that time figuring out how to explain 30 minutes of discrimination to a federal judge. She turned to Lily. The parents' coalition that contacted me wants to fund a class action suit. If you're willing to be the lead plaintiff, we can go after systemic change, not just Ethan's placement. Lily looked at the parents around her. At Rachel, who'd brought her family's grocery money to help. At Marcus, whose daughter had been driven out years ago. At the mother whose ADHD son had begged to leave. Yes, she said. Let's make sure Victoria never hurts another child. Victoria Hargrove, who'd walked into that building as an award-winning principal with political ambitions, walked out past cameras and recording phones and parents who finally had proof that their children's suffering hadn't been imagined. By noon, the video had gone viral. By 3 p.m., the superintendent had placed Victoria on administrative leave. By evening, when Channel 7 ran Jasmine's full report, complete with the recording and interviews with affected families, the governor's office released a statement calling for a full investigation. If you're watching this and thinking about the children with disabilities who get pushed aside by systems that should protect them, subscribe to this channel. Because what happened next proved that sometimes standing up for one child changes everything for all of them. 3 months later, Lily stood in front of the State Board of Education in the Capitol building. Ethan sitting quietly beside her with his noise-canceling headphones and his favorite red toy car. She'd been invited to testify about special education reform, something she never imagined doing when she'd walked into Victoria Hargrove's office that day. My son almost lost his education because one person decided he wasn't worth the effort, Lily said into the microphone. But he wasn't the first, and he wouldn't have been the last. Systems that allow this to happen need to change. The investigation into Riverside Academy had uncovered exactly what the parents suspected. 11 students with disabilities transferred out in 3 years, all right before standardized testing periods. Budget allocations that mysteriously excluded special education while funding athletics and administrator bonuses. A pattern so clear that even the district's own lawyers had advised immediate settlement. Victoria Hargrove had resigned 4 days after the video went viral. Not voluntarily, the school board had given her a choice: resign or be terminated for cause and lose her pension. She'd taken the resignation, but the damage was done. The state board had revoked her credentials pending a full ethics investigation. Her position on every educational board and committee had evaporated overnight. The governor's task force appointment she campaigned for went to someone else, along with any hope of higher political office. Last Lily heard, Victoria was working as a consultant for a private tutoring company in another state. Her reputation too toxic for any public school to touch. The settlement had been substantial. The district agreed to reinstate all 11 students who'd been pushed out, provide full accommodations and aid support, implement mandatory disability awareness training for all staff, and establish an independent oversight committee to review placement decisions. They also paid $180,000 to settle the civil rights complaint, money that Lily immediately put into a scholarship fund for families fighting similar battles. But the real victory was what happened to Ethan. He'd returned to Riverside Academy the Monday after the emergency injunction, this time with a new aide, Miss Rodriguez, who actually understood autism and treated him with genuine respect. His teacher, Mrs. Patterson, had apologized privately to Lily, admitting she'd felt pressured by Victoria to document problems that didn't exist. Within weeks, Ethan was thriving. His reading level jumped 2 grades. He made 3 new friends in addition to Sophie. He won a science fair award for his project about how different colored cars affected temperature. At the awards ceremony, he'd stood on stage with his gold ribbon, looked directly at the audience despite how hard that was for him, and said clearly, "Thank you for believing I could do it." Lily had cried through the entire thing. Mrs. Jenkins had been rehired, not as an individual aide, but as the district's new special education coordinator. a position created specifically to prevent what happened to Ethan from happening to anyone else. She'd called Lily the day she accepted the job. "I should have fought harder when it was happening," Patricia had said, her voice thick with emotion. "I should have been brave like you. You gave me the information I needed," Lily had responded. "That took courage too." Rachel Kim and Marcus Thompson had become close friends, part of a parent advocacy group that met monthly to support families navigating special education systems. They'd already helped 4 other families fight discriminatory placement decisions, winning every single case. "You started something," Rachel had told Lily over coffee one Saturday morning while their kids played together at the park. "People aren't afraid anymore. They know they can fight back." Jasmine Porter's reporting had won her a regional Emmy for investigative journalism. She'd done 3 follow-up pieces tracking the systemic changes in the district and interviewing other families who'd come forward with their own stories. The series had sparked similar investigations in districts across the state. "You gave me the story of my career," Jasmine had said when she'd stopped by Lily's house with the Emmy. "But more than that, you reminded me why I became a journalist. To give voice to people who've been silenced." Lily's own life had transformed in ways she hadn't expected. Morrison and Associates had promoted her to senior analyst after she'd returned to work, her supervisor quietly mentioning that the company valued employees who stood up for their principles. The raise helped with legal bills and therapy costs, but more than that, it gave her the stability to keep fighting when other families needed help. She'd started a blog documenting her experience, offering practical advice for parents navigating IEP meetings and discrimination. It had grown to 50,000 followers. Publishers had reached out about a book deal. Speaking invitations arrived weekly. But the most meaningful change was internal. The woman who'd sat in Victoria's office 9 months ago, desperate and afraid, willing to accept humiliation for $500, was gone. In her place was someone who understood that silence protects systems, but truth dismantles them. Now finishing her testimony before the state board, Lily looked at Ethan coloring quietly beside her. "My son taught me something important," she said. "Children with disabilities aren't broken. They're not defective. They're not problems to be hidden away. They're human beings who deserve the same dignity, respect, and opportunity as every other child. When we fail to provide that, we don't diminish them. We diminish ourselves." The board members nodded, several taking notes. The chairwoman, an older black woman with kind eyes, leaned forward. "Mrs. Chen, your courage has already changed lives. What would you say to other parents who are afraid to speak up?" Lily thought about that for a moment. About the recording she'd almost been too scared to make. About the meeting with Jasmine she'd almost canceled. About every moment when giving up would have been easier than fighting. "I'd say your fear is valid," she answered. "These systems are designed to intimidate you, to make you feel small and powerless. But you're not powerless. You're your child's first and best advocate. And the truth, spoken clearly and backed by evidence, is more powerful than any institution's reputation." She paused. "I'd also say you don't have to do it alone. Find your people. Find the other parents, the good teachers who care, the journalists who want real stories, the lawyers who believe in justice. They're out there. And together, you're unstoppable." After the hearing, Lily and Ethan walked through the Capitol Gardens. He was excited about the big building with the gold dome, asking questions about how laws were made and why some buildings were so fancy. "Mama, did you help make a law today?" he asked. "Not quite, baby. I helped explain why we need better laws to protect kids like you." "Kids like me are good kids," he said matter-of-factly. "The best kids," Lily agreed, squeezing his hand. Her phone buzzed. A text from a parent she'd been advising whose daughter with Down syndrome was facing expulsion. "Maria, they backed down. Full accommodations, no transfer. Thank you so much." Lily smiled and typed back. "You did the hard part. You stood up. I just showed you it was possible." That evening, tucking Ethan into bed, he looked at her with those serious eyes that saw so much. "Mama, is Principal Hargrove still mean to kids?" "No, baby. She's not a principal anymore. She can't hurt anyone now." "Good. Being mean is bad." "It is. But you know what's good? When someone is mean and people stop them. That's how we make the world safer. Did we make the world safer? We did, Ethan, we really did. He smiled and closed his eyes, secure in his routine, in his school, in his life that had been threatened, but was now protected by the truths his mother had refused to let stay hidden. Lily walked into her living room where her laptop sat open with 3 new emails from parents asking for help. She'd answer them all, just like she answered every request that came through her blog or social media. Because she remembered what it felt like to be alone in that fight, and she'd made herself a promise. No parent would ever face that alone again if she could help it. Victoria Hargrove had tried to destroy one child to protect test scores and political ambitions. Instead, she'd created an advocate who would protect thousands of children for years to come. The best revenge, Lily had learned, wasn't destroying the person who hurt you. It was making sure they could never hurt anyone else again. And then using your survival to build something that mattered, something that lasted, something that transformed pain into purpose. She opened her laptop and began typing a response to the first parent's email. Outside, the city lights twinkled. Upstairs, her son slept peacefully. And somewhere in another state, a disgraced former principal was learning that reputation built on cruelty crumbles the moment truth finds its voice. 1 year ago, Lily had been a desperate mother recording a meeting in secret, hoping for evidence that might save her son. Today, she was testimony that speaking truth to power doesn't just change one life, it changes systems, it changes communities. It changes the world for every child who comes after. If this story moved you, if you've ever fought for someone who couldn't fight for themselves, or if you believe that every child deserves dignity regardless of their differences, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because the truth is simple, we're only as strong as the most vulnerable among us. And when we fight for them, we all rise together.